Chapter 1022. Yiqing Luo's mind instantly cleared up. The King of Darkness from the Dark Forces, didn't he want the cultivator's soul? The director wanted to bring forward the interclass competition to hold the ability assessment. In actual fact, it was to test the student's soul. A clean, without any distracting thoughts, was the most delicious soul. Yiqing Luo finally understood the reason why the director insisted on holding the ability assessment. If this assessment was for the soul which the King of Darkness wanted, that meant that the students who passed the ability assessment had a high possibility of falling into the hands of the King of Darkness. This assessment their devil class must definitely pass. There was a possibility that this was a way to get close to the King of Darkness. Everyone be careful, this round is not simple. The first 2 rounds were all about taking one's life or crushing one's soul from the depths of one's heart. This round was absolutely not simple. Ruopan surveyed the surroundings and looked at the half-open gates of hell, muttering to himself for a moment, "Madame Qing Luo, this is the inside of the gates of hell. Which means, there is a possibility that this is the stairway to the 18 levels of hell." 18 levels of hell? The other students repeated the sentence in disbelief, their eyes filled with astonishment. 18 levels of hell is not a place for dead people to go, wee. Isn't the gates of hell also a place for dead people to enter? Tong Ziqing's expression was still cold. 18 levels of hell it is, let's charge through it first. While speaking, her gaze unknowingly looked towards Long Yunzhan. Long Yunzhan seemed as though he didn't notice it as he replied indifferently, "No matter if it's a place for dead people or not, since we're already here, if we want to pass the test and take part in the interclass competition, then we must go." When the other students heard that, they kept away their fearful expressions and immediately stood up straight. "Yes, class monitor." Yiqing Luo looked at the spiraling downwards, the bottomless stairway and looked down. All she saw was a patch of strange green candlelight. Other than the stairway, she couldn't see anything else. Yiqing Luo's vigilance didn't dissipate because of this. She took the lead and stepped on the stairway first as she walked down carefully. After walking for 10 over steps, she didn't discover anything strange nor did she sense any danger. Go down slowly and be prepared to use your profound jade heart to maintain your body's lightness. Yiqing Luo instructed. The few of them responded and took turns to step on the stairway. They walked extremely slowly and in a short while they had already passed through more than 100 floors. However, the surroundings were still empty. Only the green candlelight floated along the stairs, illuminating them. Right at this moment, they heard a commotion coming from the top of the stairs, which was also the end of Hell's Gate. From the sound of it, there were at least 20 to 30 people. They had successfully walked out of the illusion. Yiqing Luo frowned as she stopped in her tracks and looked up. A group of students swarmed in. The first person to stand beside the stairs and look down at them was actually Xuanhuan Liuli. That big-breasted, brainless woman who was controlled by the dark forces. He actually passed the test of the 3 separations? Could it be that he had borrowed the power of the mysterious Yinqi? How dare you cheat in the heavenly pagoda? Aren't you afraid of being discovered by the teacher of justice? Chapter 1023. Xuanhuan Liuli's voice attracted quite a number of students' attention. They were shocked that after walking into the gates of hell, they didn't fall into any other space or illusion. Suddenly hearing Xuanhuan Liuli's words, they subconsciously rushed over. Then he saw the spiral staircase descending. Whereas Yiqing Luo and the rest had already walked along the staircase for a long distance. How could this bunch of waste pass the 3 rounds of illusion? High profound class students were filled with anger. They almost fell into the illusion, and if it wasn't for the fact that they found the loophole in the illusion at the last minute to regain their consciousness, they wouldn't be able to walk out of the illusion. How would these waste have the ability to walk out of the illusion? They even snatched the chance to head towards the 3rd space. It must be as what Xuanhuan Liuli said, that illusion was Yiqing Luo's doing. Yiqing Luo wanted to take the opportunity to pass the ability assessment for the 10 of them in her class. Specially created an illusion for them. Otherwise, how would they have the chance to snatch the chance? That bunch of waste actually treated them as fools to make a fool out of them. Yiqing Luo, don't even think of escaping. Devil class, you stop right there. I'm going to kill you. Treacherous villains. A bunch of villains who only know how to play dirty tricks. Those high-profound class and intermediate profound class students had intense hatred in their eyes. One by one they followed the staircase and chased after Yiqing Luo and the rest. That bunch of people must be sick. Xiao Jin stared at those 20 over people as they walked up the staircase in unison. One Xuanhuan Liuli, with just a few simple words, was able to lead them by the nose so easily. These people. Are they really the so-called elite students? The other students shook their heads, but they couldn't conceal their contempt towards these so-called high profound class, intermediate profound class students. It was said that Heavenly Academy was the best academy in Nirvana realm. All the students were extremely talented, which made one envious. Especially for the high profound class, those were the elite students among the geniuses. But the students of the devil class were deeply suspicious. They felt that the intelligence of the high profound class was so low that they couldn't bear to ridicule them. There's a problem here. Yiqing Luo calmly opened her mouth as her eyes squinted slightly. Her fingers gently brushed past the green candlelight floating in the air. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is also one of the tests of the mysterious pagoda. Yiqing Luo had been paying attention to the surrounding candlelight for a long time. The faint green candlelight was strange and cold. Even though there was no wind, it swayed the surrounding shadows. What made Yiqing Luo felt strange was when the candlelight flickered. It gave her an extremely uncomfortable feeling. The stairway to the 18 levels of hell is almost the same as the first trial of the upper profound pagoda, the Golden Desert. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand as she explained, "These candlelight give off a scent that humans are unable to smell, but it can cause a huge impact on humans. This smell can release the darkest and evilest thoughts in a human's heart and affect their emotions." That was to say, the students who had barged into the gates of hell had all been infected by the evil thoughts of the green candlelight gas. That was why he became easily angered, dark, and ruthless? Big sister is right. Kitty smelled it. Kitty Lee raised her paw. The minute I entered, Kitty smelled a strange smell. Kitty thought it was the yin qi from the gates of hell, so I didn't think too much about it. Then, why are we fine? Tong Ziqing frowned as she asked. Chapter 1024. Just as the 10 students from the devil class were about to set off towards the Xianxia Plaza, it was unknown how God Pirate avoided the various devices around the college and sneaked into the devil class. He wore a long robe that shone with golden ingots. The jades in his hair trembled as he moved. Coincidentally, he was holding a pot of medicinal soup in his hand, which emitted a medicinal fragrance. This made Yiqing Luo speechless and unable to vent. Holy pirates sneaked into the college just to give them a pot of medicine. They said that this pot of medicinal soup would be helpful for their strength test today. Before the 10 of them set off, each of them took a sip. And Ruapan's eyes lit up. In other words, the medicinal soup that God Pirate gave us is to stabilize our minds and isolate the yin energy and miasma from the gates of hell and the 18 levels of hell. No wonder they could always wake up at the most critical moment in the illusion. It was likely that Holy Thief's medicinal soup had taken effect. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Indeed so. At that time I smelled the ingredients of the medicinal soup, but I didn't think too much about it. Now that I see these green candlelight, I understand that the medicinal soup is resisting against yin qi and miasma. That pot of medicinal soup should not have been prepared by God Pirate. To be able to know the contents of the Heavenly Pagoda's test and prepare the medicinal soup beforehand, he was also acquainted with God Thief, and he could use God Thief's hand to deliver it to them. Who could it be? In his mind suddenly flashed that scene in the World Group's old residence. In Holy Pirate's room, he saw the scene between Holy Pirate and Ghost Doctor. This medicinal soup was brewed by the Ghost Doctor, right? What was the relationship between the Ghost Doctor and God Thief? She didn't have time to think about it. Xuanhuan Liuli's voice was already nearing. Yiqing Luo, don't even think about running. You almost caused us to die in the illusion and you still want to escape? Today I must dismember your corpse into 10,000 pieces. Xuanhuan Liuli walked very quickly. He didn't seem to care about the fact that there were no fences on either side of the stairs. Furthermore, the stairs were full of twists and turns. If he wasn't careful, he might miss the stairs and fall into the bottomless abyss. In just a short moment he had already caught up to Yiqing Luo and the others. Behind him, those students from the high profound class were moving step by step. His heroic spirit soared to the sky, and the imposing manner of seeking revenge on Yiqing Luo had been greatly diminished by this terrifying flight of stairs. Xuanhuan Liuli was alone, yet she dared to charge at them. It should be said that she was brave. Or should it be said that he could do whatever he wanted just by relying on the mysterious yin qi? Yiqing Luo gave a faint laugh as she ignored Xuanhuan Liuli's hooting. You guys leave, don't bother about her. For the ability assessment, Yiqing Luo didn't intend to let Devil Class's students take action. After all, not only the students in the Heaven Pagoda who were still taking the test would know the secret of the Devil Class in advance. The general situation in the pagoda would also be narrated by one of the teachers in charge of the Heaven Pagoda. There was no point in knowing everything now. Long Yunzhan and the others nodded slightly and continued forward slowly. He did not lose his rhythm because of the student's pursuit. No matter what, safety was the most important. Yiqing Luo stood on the spot, waiting for Xuanhuan Liuli to approach. Xuanhuan Liuli was like a crazy woman as she directly dashed in front of Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to push her. Yiqing Luo, if you have the ability, then make a move on me. I'm warning you, this is the Heaven Pagoda, and if you dare to make a move on me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. Xuanhuan Liuli was delighted. This was the consequence of Yiqing Luo's arrogance. She actually dared to bring only 9 students into the assessment. Once Yiqing Luo's qualification was disqualified, it would be the same as Devil class, with no chance to take part in the interclass competition. Chapter 1025. Yiqing Luo only moved sideways slightly to avoid Xuanhuan Liuli's palm strike. Xuanhuan Liuli pushed empty air and almost lost her footing as her entire body fell forward. This fall made Xuanhuan Liuli shriek in terror. She stood at the side of the staircase as she bent down to look below. The endless staircase, she had no idea how deep or how high it was below. A jade pendant fell down from her waist. For some time, there was no sound of the jade pendant hitting the ground. Xuanhuan Liuli's face turned pale. Those students who carefully stepped on the staircase also shuddered. The staircase, how deep was it? For such a long time, there was no sound of the jade pendant falling onto the ground. If it fell, it was possible that she would be smashed into smithereens. Xuanhuan Liuli was so frightened that her hands turned into a spiral shape as she kept moving backwards. Following that, her body fell backwards as her buttocks fell heavily onto the staircase. Xuanhuan Liuli still had a lingering fear as she touched her chest as she trembled in fear. When her gaze landed on Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side watching the show with her arms crossed, Xuanhuan Liuli's petite body shuddered as the fearful expression on her face was replaced by sullen anger. Yiqing Luo, are you doing this on purpose? You intentionally want me to fall down. You want to kill me? There was a hole in this lady's brain. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she glanced at her with a smile, yet not a smile. According to what you said, if I push you, you can't avoid it? If you avoid it, then you're trying to kill me? Her words had just ended as her figure speedily approached. Her palm moved and pushed toward Xuanhuan Liuli. Yiqing Luo, how dare you? Xuanhuan Liuli was so scared that her face turned pale as she scrambled up the stairs. If you dare to push me, you will be disqualified from the assessment. See, didn't you also avoid it? You're trying to make me fall down on purpose, intentionally trying to kill me? Yiqing Luo spread out her hands as she used Xuanhuan Liuli's original words to counter. It said that a woman's heart is the most vicious. Student Xuanhuan is really vicious. You. Xuanhuan Liuli was so angry that her face turned pale. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo. Moreover, if I push you down, I'll be disqualified from the assessment. Earlier when I dodged, didn't I help you retain your assessment rights? Come to think of it, you should thank me. Ha! Devil class's 9 people who had been paying close attention to their situation, upon hearing Yiqing Luo's shameless words which made Xuanhuan Liuli unable to rebuke, couldn't help but burst out laughing. Student Xuanhuan, what Qing Luo said is right, you should thank Qing Luo. Xiao Jin nodded in agreement. Not only do you have to thank me, you have to apologize as well, Tong Ziqing said coldly. Every word she said sounded like a command. Apologize? Oh, that's right. Student Xuanhuan relied on the fact that he is a student of the intermediate profound class and wanted to harm our devil class students. If this matter were to spread to the other students or the academy's ears. Anai Rupin covered her mouth under the veil and giggled. Intermediate profound class students attempted to harm devil class students during the academy's assessment, and even threatened devil class students. Isn't this gimmick explosive enough? The successive words caused the faces of the 20 over students to turn green and white. Xuanhuan Liuli's expression was the ugliest. This bunch of trash actually had such a sharp tongue. In front of them elite students, they even dared to talk back. Did they think that with Yiqing Luo as their backing they could do anything? Chapter 1026. Yiqing Luo stood there calmly with her arms crossed over her chest. As though she totally didn't care about Xuanhuan Liuli's provocation. The hatred in Xuanhuan Liuli's eyes grew thicker as a black chi swam around in her eyes. Yiqing Luo, don't be too complacent. Even if I'm disqualified, my intermediate profound class too. If 10 of us can walk out of the heavenly pagoda, then we can still take part in the interclass competition. But you. Once you're disqualified, your devil class will definitely lose. Xuanhuan Liuli laughed out loud. She only had one aim now. That was to make Yiqing Luo disqualified from the assessment. To make Devil Class unable to take part in the interclass competition. Her gaze turned cold as her expression suddenly turned severe. Out of nowhere he took out a long sword. Leaping up, he went past Yiqing Luo and headed straight towards those trash in Devil Class, charging straight towards them. "Want to touch my people?" Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly as her 5 fingers opened up and a palm chi turned into a huge dragon. The rumbling chi brought along a strong hurricane. Xuanhuan Lioli's figure swayed, and under the strong hurricane, she couldn't maintain her figure at all. She recalled the scene of the jade pendant falling down the stairs without any sound. Xuanhuan Lioli didn't dare to be presumptuous. She could only give up on killing the bunch of trash in Devil Class and stabilize herself first. She had just stood still. Suddenly, a deafening roar was heard from the bottom of the stairs. From far to near. But in the blink of an eye, a huge shadow rushed in front of everyone. That shadow landed heavily on the stairs beside Xuanhuan Lioli. The huge figure separated Yiqing Luo and the other 9 students. Boom! A loud sound was heard and the rumbling air waves shook the stairs. Those students who had just walked up 10 over steps immediately wailed like ghosts as their legs turned soft on the stairs, not daring to walk any further. Xuanhuan Lioli was also shocked by this shock as she knelt down on the ground. She could clearly feel a powerful force behind her, right in front of her. But she didn't dare to turn back. What on earth would rush up from the bottom of the stairs? Yiqing Luo could see it clearly. She squinted her eyes as she stared calmly at that lump of thing behind Xuanhuan Lioli. It should be called a thing. It was a lump that looked like a lump of meat. On top of the meat, there were even scorching bubbles as if the meat was boiling. It was so massive that it occupied 5 to 6 flights of stairs. It looked extremely disgusting and terrifying. What is that? So disgusting. My God. How did this meatball jump up from the bottom of the stairs? Meatball? Xuanhuan Lioli's eyes widened in fear. She shivered and slowly turned her head. Behind her, there was a flight of stairs that was only a step away from her. It really was a ball of bubbling meat. Her eyes were filled with terror and she was about to break into a run. An eye suddenly appeared on the fleshy meatball. Those eyes were the size of Xuanhuan Lioli. Ah, monster! Monster! Xuanhuan Lioli's legs went soft, and she immediately turned around and ran back. However, there was no room for her to lift her leg. His eyes darted around for a moment. Soon after, the meatball moved and stuck itself to Xuanhuan Lioli's body. Ah, it's disgusting. Scram. Scram. Xuanhuan Lioli struggled to break free from that meatball. But the meatball seemed to be stuck to her body. When she pushed it away, a thin layer of meat membrane appeared in the middle, and immediately adhered tightly to Xuanhuan Lioli's body. Chapter 1027. Immediately following that, a shocking scene happened. That lump of meat had already stuck Xuanhuan Lioli's entire chest together. That lump of meat bubbled and slowly spread out like a meat paste. That meat paste, bit by bit, merged Xuanhuan Lioli's body into that lump of meat. That bunch of students gave off a terrified scream. What was this? What was this thing? It actually swallowed a person. A person was merged alive into the lump of meat. They could clearly see Xuanhuan Lioli's shrill cries for help, as her hands struggled. But her body was still being invaded by that lump of meat inch by inch. Finally, the entire head entered the scene of the lump of meat. Simply disgusting. Horrifying. Making one's hair stand on end. Monster. Monster. Those 10 over students who had already walked down the stairs were already scrambling and running back. The staircase was originally not wide. This crowd of people was rushing back. Under the continuous pushing and shoving, there were a few students who couldn't stand properly, as they directly fell down from the staircase. Ah, only to hear those few students' shrill cries. That sound persisted for a long period of time and finally disappeared. But no one heard the sound of a heavy object landing on the ground. Only that miserable cry was still lingering in everyone's ears. Those students were so frightened that their faces turned pale as they trembled all over. All of them stood stiffly on the spot. No one dared to move recklessly. If this crowd continued, perhaps the next one to fall down would be them. They stared in terror at that lump of meat which had completely merged into Xuanhuan Lioli's body, as their hearts were filled with terror. Following that lump of meat's target must be Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo stood by the side, the nearest to the lump of meat. Devil Class's 9 people also thought so. Long Yunzhan had already started walking, as he rushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But he was stopped by Yiqing Luo's shout, "All of you continue." Long Yunzhan's footsteps halted. Under the black veil, Yiqing Luo couldn't see his expression. But she knew Long Yunzhan definitely didn't approve of her acting tough alone. "No matter, leave it to me." Yiqing Luo's gaze was resolute as she said every word. The 9 of them could not take action here. She alone was enough to deal with this meatball. Long Yunzhan stood there quietly, his figure tall and motionless. After some time, Qiao Jin walked up and tugged Long Yunzhan's arm, pulling him back. "Since Qing Luo said to hand it over to her, then we shall believe her." Long Yunzhan's entire body tensed up, and under Qiao Jin's pushing he returned to the devil class students. The group of 9 continued to walk down the stairs, looking back 3 times with every step. The lump of meat moved slowly. Soon after, a huge eye appeared on the bubbling ball of meat once again. The eyeball was spinning. His gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she stared vigilantly at the lump of meat. After swallowing Xuanhuan Lioli, the meatball clearly tasted the sweetness of a human. His big, wide eyes were filled with a greedy look. Following that, the meat lump slowly moved towards Yiqing Luo bit by bit. Just then, the glower flame fan in Yiqing Luo's hand rotated in her palm. Soon after, it turned into a spiral and like a sharp blade, it spun towards the lump of meat. The red feather fan, profound chi surged into the sky. When it got close to the lump of meat, a bewitching red glow suddenly rose. Like a ball of flame in an instant, it streaked past that lump of meat. The lump of meat instantly split into pieces as minced meat splattered. Chapter 1028. She cut that lump of meat into pieces. Student Yi is indeed a strong one, so powerful. She actually did it so easily. Those students' suspenseful hearts finally calmed down. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't relax at all. Her slender brows creased slightly as her charming eyes stared intently at that lump of meat that was split into pieces. Somehow she felt that things wouldn't end so easily. Indeed. Just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, suddenly, someone from the high profound class screamed in horror, "Something's wrong." Hiss hiss hiss. Another strange sound was heard. The minced meat on the ground, gathered bit by bit and reassembled into a lump of meat. That huge eye stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. What kind of monster is this? It can actually regenerate itself. Xie Yin squatted by the side of the stairs as he stared at that lump of meat and then looked at the young lady whose back was facing him. His brows knitted even tighter. This monster could actually regenerate itself after being split into pieces. Yiqing Luo still had a way to deal with it? Xie Yin squinted his eyes as the scene of Yi Fengru returning to the god-slaying mercenary group appeared in his mind, covered in injuries. Not only Yi Fengru, their group leader Nangong Firen and the others were all covered in injuries. Other than them, the other 20 over mercenaries were all buried in the Ling King's tomb. The one who saved them was Yiqing Luo. He pursed his lips meaningfully. He wanted to see what remarkable ability Yiqing Luo had to make such a powerful group leader fall for her. The lump of meat which had reassembled itself into a lump of meat was filled with anger. The steaming, bubbling ball of meat rolled a few times. Suddenly, from the softness, 2 long meaty hands grew out, like a human's arm, an arm formed from a lump of meat. It grabbed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The lump of meat's speed was extremely fast. But in a blink of an eye, that 2 meaty arms had already stretched out in front of Yiqing Luo. Its 5 fingers stretched out and was about to grab Yiqing Luo's shoulder. The meaty arms were still bubbling. There wasn't any fragrance from boiling meat but only a nauseating stench. Yiqing Luo frowned as she swiftly retreated a few steps to avoid those 2 meaty arms. The devouring flame fan in his hand quickly slashed out a wind blade. The wind blade was so sharp that it directly cut off the 2 arms. The 2 meaty arms fell to the ground, rolled a few times and fell down the stairs. The meatball's gaze became more and more ruthless. It exerted force and 2 new arms grew out of its severed flesh arms. The 2 new arms were obviously more disgusting than the previous arms. The stench also became extremely strong. Yiqing Luo's body bent down and rolled a few rounds down the stairs. Then he slammed the ground and leaped up. After retreating a few steps, Yiqing Luo closed her glower flame fan and stood firm. "What are you?" His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at her. It wanted to tear apart this human who injured it. It wanted to swallow this human into its body in the most painful way possible. Due to its anger, the surface of the plump meatball was constantly bubbling. Immediately after, the meatball launched another attack. The meatball once again collapsed into a pile of meat paste. It directly spread towards Yiqing Luo's legs. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, carefully sizing up its weakness as she swiftly retreated. Just as that pile of meat paste was about to reach her legs, Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan opened and the condensed profound qi directly exploded that pile of meat paste. Chapter 1029. Her 5 fingers flicked and the opened feather fan shot out a few silver wires in a split second. The silver wires shot out as fine as rain. It swiftly wrapped around those pieces of meat that were blown away. Those pieces of meat were bound by the iron wires. After Yiqing Luo stood still, her gaze quickly wandered around the meat lump. This meat lump had the ability to recover automatically. The ability to recover definitely needed a medium. With that medium as the center, it could continue to recover. What she needed to do now was to organize the meat lump to recover. Try her best to find the medium to recover. As long as the medium was destroyed, the meat lump had no possibility of recovery. Sure enough, after the meat lump was blown into pieces once again, those pieces of meat that were splattered below the stairs gradually floated up and gathered towards a certain place. And the pieces of meat which were bound by Yiqing Luo's silver wires also gave off a resonance vibration. Yiqing Luo pinched the silver wires tightly, feeling the direction that the silver wires wanted to head towards. Her gaze was fixed on the place where the meat lump first appeared. There was a piece of meat the size of a fist. Some pieces of meat which were not bound by the silver wires were constantly flying towards that meat lump. Pieces of meat, merged with that fist-sized meat lump, condensed into a ball. The pieces of meat which were bound by the silver wires kept struggling and vibrating, trying to get closer to that piece of meat lump. Yiqing Luo swiftly pinched the feather fan tightly, the other palm flipped and struck out a palm wind. The palm wind shot out an enchanting red ray, charging towards that piece of meat lump. Perhaps it sensed the existence of danger. Yiqing Luo's palm had just struck out. The pieces of meat which were bound by the silver wires gave off an increasingly intense vibration and reaction. Bam! The silver wires broke one by one. Yiqing Luo staggered backwards a few steps because of the sudden disappearance of this force, almost stepping on the stairs. She stabilized her figure, staring at those pieces of meat which broke through the silver wires and flew towards that piece of meat lump, blocking Yiqing Luo's palm wind. Once again the scene of the pieces of meat flying around played out. However, this time and time again, the pieces of meat flying around did not give one the slightest sense of relief or the feeling of relief. But it made one's heart turn cold, increasingly fearful. Time and time again it was torn apart. Time and time again it automatically recovered. This lump of meat was a monster that couldn't be killed. Yiqing Luo's expression was cold, her long and narrow eyes stared unblinkingly at the lump of meat. She discovered that the ball of meat was continuously recovering, and each recovery was taking longer than the previous one. It was as if his energy was gradually being depleted. In other words, is there a limit to the number of times this meatball can recover? Once it was restored to a certain number of times, the meatball would run out of energy. It would lose the ability to recover. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up as her 5 fingers opened up the glower flame fan, preparing to completely exhaust the recovery ability of this meatball. The ball of flesh, which had already recovered, rushed toward the other end of the stairs at the speed of light. In the direction of the high-profound class students who had already gone down more than 10 steps. Yiqing Luo was stunned and immediately realized something as she reprimanded in a low voice, "All of you quickly move aside. This monster wants to devour humans to replenish its energy." Hearing this, the students turned pale with fright. The scene of Xuanhuan Liuli being devoured was still vivid in their minds. No one wanted to become food for that meatball. No one wanted to be swallowed by that meatball. It was simply too disgusting. It was simply too terrifying. However, their speed was no match for the speed of the meatball. Chapter 1030. Help. I don't want to be eaten. I don't want to die. One by one, the high-profound class students did not even have the intention to resist. They only knew how to cry like ghosts and howl like wolves as they scrambled up the stairs. And those intermediate class and high-profound class students who had yet to walk down the stairs turned around and ran. Xianxia also immediately escaped from the scene. A student had already been stuck to the meat lump. In just a blink of an eye, that student had already been sucked into the meat lump. Following that, the meat lump stuck to another student. That student was Lu Shuiyu. Her usually cold and indifferent face turned pale with fright as the pieces of meat stuck to her body. She grabbed Lu Xuelan who was beside her. "Sister, save me." "No, no." Lu Xuelan screamed in fear as she slapped her hand away and used her hands and feet to climb up the stairs. Along the way she even kicked Lu Xueyu towards the direction of the meat lump. Normally, none of the people who surrounded him were willing to help him, saying that he was the vice president and that he was the vice president. All of them escaped extremely quickly and no one cared about her. Lu Xueyu's eyes were filled with hatred. She clenched her fists and struggled with all her might. She could clearly feel that sticky fleshy sensation clinging tightly to her back. It was as if there was a pulling force that kept pulling her towards the depths of the meat lump. In this world there was no one and nothing that could be relied on. The only one that could be relied on was herself. Lu Xueyu no longer cared and did not expect anyone to save her. After all, she was a high profound class student and the faculty council's vice president. Lu Xueyu's reaction was not as slow as the other students. Her eyes turned cold as she gathered her profound qi. Before her hand was sucked into the meat lump, she struck it with her palm. She ran forward with all her might. The clothes on her back and the meat lump pulled out pieces of thin film that could not be broken. Lu Xueyu pursed her red lips. Unless, she had to tear her clothes to escape from the meat lump's suction. Otherwise, she would not be able to escape from the meat lump's suction ability. But, once she tore her clothes. Inside there was only her indecent clothes. There were so many students around. Wouldn't that ruin his innocence? Wouldn't Xianmu despise her for ruining her reputation? Despise her for not knowing how to be clean? No. She could not let Xianmu despise her. Lu Xueyu's face had already turned deathly pale, and her forehead was dripping with sweat. He kept running forward, trying to pull away from the meatball. However, the meatball had already absorbed half of her body. Whoosh whoosh, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Lu Xueyu only felt her body become light, and her whole body was separated from the ball of meat. She quickly leaped up the stairs and ran in the direction of the gates of hell. As she ran, she did not forget to look back. The elegant young girl dressed in a greenish-white uniform slowly withdrew the wind blades she had shot out. The devouring flame fan that was like a raging inferno was also emitting profound energy. That absolutely beautiful face was calm and indifferent, without the slightest extra emotion. Was her Yiqing Luo who saved him? Lu Xueyu stopped in her tracks in disbelief. She could not believe that at this moment the people who usually followed her, even her own sister, did not help her at all. And that Yiqing Luo whom she had targeted, schemed and wanted to take her life, had saved her. The shock that this caused to Lu Xueyu was incomparably huge. The meatball's huge eyes slid across the meat lump because Yiqing Luo had disturbed its foraging. It slid all the way to Yiqing Luo's direction before it stopped. Chapter 1031. After swallowing 2 students consecutively, the meatball's energy had been replenished. Its eyes were glowing with a strange red glow. "Why are you still standing there for? Still want to be eaten?" Yiqing Luo raised her eyes indifferently and swept a glance at Lu Xueyu. Lu Xueyu shuddered. "You. Why save me?" These 5 words were interrupted by Yiqing Luo coldly. "I don't want to save you just for my own survival." What she said wasn't polite words. Whether Lu Xueyu was dead or alive to her, it didn't matter. She stopped the meatball from absorbing Lu Xueyu because she couldn't let the meatball absorb the human's energy to replenish its own energy. Once the meatball automatically recovered, it would return to its original state. It would be more difficult for her to deal with the meatball. Lu Xueyu clenched her teeth, didn't say another word, turned around and ran towards the direction of the gates of hell. Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze and stared at the meatball whose eyes were glowing red. Her lips curled into a faint smile. "Why don't we try? Will I exhaust my profound energy first, or will you not be able to automatically recover first?" That huge eyes, its eyeballs rolled a few rounds, its gaze getting more and more vicious. It was angry. Angry at Yiqing Luo's provocation. But Yiqing Luo's expression was calm, her lips still raised slightly. "Why? Scared?" That meatball, under the rolling bubbles, stretched out 2 long meaty arms, grabbing towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was calm, without any fear as she stared at the incoming meatball arms. That calm and beautiful face, unknowingly gave off a strangers don't come near kind of strong imposing manner. Just as the meaty arms were about to attack her face, Yiqing Luo's figure swayed, her figure turned into a remnant shadow, swiftly disappearing in front of the meatball. Yiqing Luo displayed her own set of footwork, following closely down the stairs. After such a long time, the 9 people in Devil class had already walked to many levels. Looking over, she couldn't see any traces of the 9 people. Yiqing Luo rushed down the stairs with ease. That meatball missed, only feeling that it was being teased by a human. It immediately rolled its round body in anger, grumbling as it chased after her. It was a huge meatball, rolling on the stairs. No matter how one looked at it, it was extremely bizarre. After running for a distance, Yiqing Luo took a look at the illusion of the stairs. The smile at the corner of his mouth showed his confidence. She flipped her hair over her shoulder and narrowed her eyes as she stared at the meatball chasing after her. Xianxia abruptly spread his fingers apart, and a heavy shockwave surged forth like thunder. Boom! The xianxia smashed onto the meatball's body. Yiqing Luo flipped her palm and a silver thread shot out from the glower flame fan. She quickly picked up the silver thread and shot it at the surrounding stairs. In the blink of an eye, the silver threads had trapped the fist-sized piece of meat in the formation. This was the reason why she had brought Meatball all the way here as if she was walking a dog. Yiqing Luo noticed the sequence of these bottomless stairs. Once they reached the first floor, the angle at which the stairs rotated was a simple formation. If he could make use of this terrain to design a formation, he would be able to control the ball of meat in a short period of time. The minced meat gathered towards the core piece of meat. However, when it approached the meat core, it was blocked by a transparent barrier. Chapter 1032. This array wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The meat lump's automatic recovery ability was too strong. She had to end the battle quickly. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed, as though reflecting a piercingly cold ray. She pulled out the silver thread from the glower flame fan and fixed the array. Immediately she opened the feather fan like a whirlwind. The glower flame fan turned into a sharp blade, directly shooting towards that piece of core meat lump. Bringing along a majestic, imposing manner like a tidal wave, it was like a hurricane. The surrounding pieces of meat, which were crashing against the array, had obviously panicked. The force and speed of the collision kept increasing. The strong hurricane pierced directly towards the core meat lump. Yiqing Luo's pupils gradually enlarged. Suddenly, a white shadow as swift as lightning dashed into the array. That core meat lump was directly held in its mouth. That's right. It was awesome. That white shadow with the core meat lump in its mouth, the huge pearl-like ink-black beast eyes, stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Shiju, you want to eat it? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. She had not expected Shiju to actually rush out of the pet space at this moment. Shiju moaned softly with that meat lump in its mouth. It tilted its head as though waiting for Yiqing Luo's permission. Last, this thing is helpful to Shiju. In her mind, Old Man Song's voice suddenly rang. In the mirage she had met Old Man Song. Hearing his voice, Yiqing Luo was stunned. Old Man Song? That lump of meat should be the guardian of the 18 levels of hell, known as Void Ghost. Old Man Song explained, Void Ghost means that it has nothing, its original body is just this kind of meat lump, it can follow what it sees, changing into any shape. For example, it could stretch out 2 fleshy human arms from the meat lump, which was transformed. Void Ghost's biggest advantage is that it will never disappear from this world. Its continuous automatic recovery, how could it possibly disappear from this world? Destroy that meat lump, it should not have the ability to recover. Yiqing Luo looked at the array which was almost unable to hold on any longer as her slender brows creased. If Shiju swallowed the core meat lump, will it cause those pieces of meat to rush toward Shiju's stomach? I won't. Old Man Song's answer was extremely decisive. Once a magical beast swallows this core of meat, it will fuse with the magical beast as one. This automatic recovery ability will also be passed on to the magical beast. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone brightly. Inheritance ability to automatically recover? Once Shiju swallowed the core meat lump, it would be able to inherit the power of automatic recovery. Then, in the future, Shiju would become an existence that would never disappear. It's just that, this is, after all, the power of inheritance. I'm afraid it won't be as frequent and fast as Solitary Ghost. Shiju, eat it. Yiqing Luo looked at Shiju as she smiled. Even if the effects were not as good as Wu Gue, it was fine. To be able to increase Shiju's chances of survival was already very good. Yiqing Luo's words had just ended when the array collapsed. Countless pieces of minced meat rushed towards Shiju in an overwhelming manner. Shiju's tongue swept, but before it could swallow the core meatball, the entire wolf's body was tightly wrapped up into a ball of minced meat that was torn into pieces. Shiju let out an explosive roar. Those minced meat. Trying to forcefully congeal into a ball in Shiju's mouth? Yiqing Luo's charming eyes turned cold as she swiftly went forward, releasing her profound qi to split those minced meat from Shiju's body. Chapter 1033. Shiju. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as her palms ignited with a burst of profound qi as she grabbed those minced meat barehandedly. No matter what, she absolutely could not let anything happen to Shiju. She had promised Shiju's mother that she would take good care of Shiju. She had promised Shiju's mother that she would bring Shiju to look for its father. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes revealed a cold glint as she grabbed those minced meat and forcefully tore those minced meat off Shiju's body. She thought that this would tear off another piece of thin film. But when Yiqing Luo's fingers just tore that piece of meat, it directly fell off from Shiju's body. Following that, numerous pieces of minced meat which were wrapped around Shiju fell onto the ground. Roar, roar! Shiju raised its head as it let out a long roar. All the minced meat at this moment was bursting forth from its powerful aura as it scattered in all directions. Shiju slowly lowered its head as its sparkling beast eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's direction. It swallowed that piece of core meat. The meat's automatic recovery ability had already been transferred to its body. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief, but she didn't forget to ask Old Man Tseng. This space is created by the Heaven Profound Pagoda, and this ghost in the 18 levels of hell should also be created. Once Shiju leaves the Heaven Profound Pagoda, can this recovery ability still be retained? The space which is created, to put it bluntly, is using the Heaven Profound Pagoda's energy to project their desired location, forming a space within the Heaven Profound Pagoda. The people or things which you meet in the Heaven Profound Pagoda are all real. It was just like the illusions from before. The gates of hell, the illusion created by the three corpses, etc., were all real existences. Naturally, this ghostly Wu was also real. The only difference is, in here, all of your injuries falling into the 18 levels of hell are being swallowed by the ghost, only your souls are injured. In reality, rest for a few days and you will be back to normal. Yiqing Luo heard that and nodded her head in understanding. Following that, she kept Shiju back into the pet space, allowing it to merge with the core meat properly. Long Yunzhan and the rest walked all the way down, and after about 400 over levels, their footsteps became slower and slower. Suddenly Long Yunzhan stopped in his tracks. His cold eyes swept over the hand that was holding his arm. Let go. Class monitor, since Qing Luo said to believe her, then let's believe her. Xiao Jin grabbed his arm tightly, and although his heart was filled with worries, but he still chose to believe in Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo would not do anything that she was not sure of. Long Yunzhan's veil revealed his azure blue eyes. A piercingly cold light as if covered with frost. Xiao Jin's hand froze and he subconsciously let go. Seeing Long Yunzhan dashing up the stairs without even turning his head back, Xiao Jin felt helpless. He chased after Long Yunzhan for a few steps, but he really couldn't catch up, so he stopped and shouted at Long Yunzhan's back, "Class rep! If you go back now, won't we all have to follow you back? Wouldn't Qing Luo's intention of delaying time for us be wasted?" The figure that had already climbed a few floors suddenly stopped in his tracks. Xiao Jin heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time he felt somewhat helpless. Only when Yiqing Luo's name was mentioned would Long Yunzhan listen to it. For the test of strength, all 10 of us in Devil class must pass it before we can obtain the right to participate in the interclass competition. Chapter 1034. This competition not only concerns Devil class's honor, not only concerns our own dignity, not only concerns how we can transform from a trash which everyone despises, to a strong practitioner who is revered by everyone. Xiao Jin's voice became more and more steady, the usual frivolous tone had completely disappeared, leaving behind a solemn and proper tone. This competition, the most important thing for us is for Qing Luo, to let Qing Luo win the bet with Xuanhuan Lu Li. He had already walked to Long Yunzhan's side as he stretched out his hand and placed it gently on Long Yunzhan's shoulder. And Qing Luo, what is it for? His azure blue eyes suddenly flashed with light. His thin lips squirmed for some time as Long Yunzhan's clear voice rang out, "She is for Devil class." "Yes, for Devil class, for all of us." Xiao Jin gave a light laugh. "So, she will not let anything happen to herself." The other 7 stood up straight as they spoke in unison. "Class monitor, Qing Luo will definitely not let anything happen to herself, we believe in her." "I'm just not around for a while and you all miss me so much?" A sweet laughter, like the tinkling of a clear spring, resounded in everyone's eardrums. The few faces under the veils revealed an ecstatic expression. One by one they headed towards the direction of the voice. As they took quick steps forward, Qing Luo, they saw a slender figure from the dark corner of the staircase, slowly walking over. That green academy uniform on her body was like a fairy's wings. While she walked, it was as though a green lotus had bloomed, making one feel intoxicated. That peerless face held a sweet smile. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly raised, as strands of enchanting and demonic charm were outlined. Was Yi Qing Luo. She had really chased up to them and scathed. "Qing Luo, are you all right? Earlier that monster." Bei Ming Lu took the lead to go up. As a doctor, she immediately pulled Yi Qing Luo's arm as she helped to take her pulse. "I'm fine." Yi Qing Luo smiled. "That monster is already dead. Its automatic recovery ability has been taken over by Shiju." After Bei Ming Lu took her pulse, to ascertain that Yi Qing Luo's body was indeed fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. When Xiao Jin heard Yi Qing Luo's last sentence, he was extremely astonished. "What did you say? That meatball's automatic recovery ability was given to Shiju? Then in the future, will Shiju still be able to regenerate itself like that meatball monster just now when it's chopped into pieces?" Hearing everyone's surprised words, the smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips became increasingly shallow. "Yes. *CK. Shiju is going to ascend to the heavens. Next time we go on a mission, let's hide behind Shiju and let Shiju be the target." Bah. Xiao Jin hadn't finished speaking when he was slapped on the head by Bai Ming Lulu. "If you dare to use Shiju as a target, then this old woman will use you as a human experiment." Xiao Jin touched the back of his head that was hurting. "I was just joking. Just who did he provoke? Why was Bai Ming Lulu targeting him today? Alright, let's wait till we leave the heavenly pagoda before making a ruckus." Yi Qing Luo looked at the few of them fooling around and her expression became much more relaxed. The two people who were fooling around responded, and the few of them walked down the stairs. About an hour later they finally saw the end of the stairs. That was a ray of white light, extremely dazzling. It was so dazzling that they couldn't see what was behind the white light. "I'll go in first, be careful." Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she released her perception. In the heavenly pagoda, no one knew what would happen in the next instance. No one knew what they would face in the next round. Chapter 1035. Congratulations to the first class to successfully walk out of the heavenly pagoda. Let us remember this elite class. An extremely dignified and righteous voice rang beside her ears. Following that, a deafening round of applause resounded across the horizon. Yi Qing Luo, who was blinded by the intense white light, rubbed her brows with her slender fingers before she slowly opened her eyes. In front of her was Master of Justice, who was dressed in a white robe with a badge. Behind her was a heavenly pagoda that towered into the clouds. From the open door of the pagoda, Xiao Jin and the rest walked out one by one. "This class is Devil class?" Master Gong Zheng's expression turned weird when he saw the class badge on Yi Qing Luo's chest. The sound of the crowd clapping also gradually faded away, leaving only a few people behind. Finally it came to an abrupt end. Devil class? That class which was known as Heavenly Academy's waste? They were actually the first class to walk out of the heavenly pagoda? How could this be possible? Numerous high-ranking officials and dignitaries, their own sons and daughters, as well as the elders in the high profound class and intermediate profound class, all had ashen faces. It was extremely awkward. A waste class. And they only brought in 10 students. And they actually snatched ahead of the elite class. Could it be cheating? A class must have at least 10 students who are able to live out of the heavenly pagoda before they can be considered to have passed the test. Yi Qing Luo being able to walk out is a given. The others must have long died in the space of the heavenly pagoda. Some of the first batch of students who were eliminated in the first round of the Golden Desert because of their greed stood up immediately. There were intermediate profound class students and low profound class students among them. But no matter which class, at least they were stronger than Devil class. They were eliminated in the first round, so how could Devil class possibly pass all the tests in the heavenly pagoda? Dozens of students started to clamor. There were also people who started to count the number of Devil class students who walked out. When Devil class students walked out of the pagoda one by one, those clamoring voices gradually quietened down. 5, 6, 8, 9. When they saw the last person walking out of the pagoda, those students who were counting shut their mouths. 10 students. Among the students in the Devil class, only 10 students entered. Finally, not one more, not one less. Furthermore, he had passed the test of the upper profound pagoda unscathed. How is this possible? The few students fell onto the ground in disbelief as they stared blankly at Yiqing Luo. It's you? You used the divine relic to cheat. Pa. A profound chi flew through the air and coincidentally hit the low profound class student's face. Yiqing Luo retracted her palm as she smiled faintly, without the slightest fluster of hitting someone in public. Yiqing Luo, you. Not waiting for that student to flare up, and not waiting for the academy's elder to say anything, Yiqing Luo struck first to gain the initiative, as she slowly squinted her charming eyes, as a trace of sly and cunning smile appeared in her eyes. Before participating in the test of strength, the dean had specifically instructed me that in order to ensure the fairness of the test of strength and the interclass competition, I cannot use the power of the divine dragon, holy beast, or divine weapon. Yiqing Luo's voice was light and sweet-sounding. However, each and every word was filled with an inviolable boldness. Chapter 1036. Questioning the director's prestige? That student was scared out of his wits as he sat down on the ground, staring blankly at Yiqing Luo's direction, forgetting to refute. Moreover, in the heavenly pagoda, there are 4 masters inspecting the entire process, and there is also a master of justice probing at any time. I cheated? So, what you're implying is that the 4 masters and justice master are helping the devil class to cheat. One after another, the cauldron smashed directly onto that student's head. That student was immediately smashed until he was dizzy and fainted from fright. Yiqing Luo's words also made those who were full of doubts shut their mouths. From the beginning to the end, the 4 masters and master of justice as well as the director did not accuse Yiqing Luo at all. It was obvious that the devil class did not cheat in the heavenly pagoda. Without using the power of the divine weapon. Without borrowing the power of the divine dragon and sacred beast. Yiqing Luo alone, how could she successfully pass the ability test with the other 9 wastes? Then, that Yiqing Luo, how strong was she? Cough cough cough. Master of Justice coughed a few times. It was wrong of Yiqing Luo to hit someone in public. But he did it for the director's prestige, to maintain the fairness of the academy. This slap really could not be blamed on Yiqing Luo. Master of Justice raised his face with a smile. Congratulations to the devil class for passing the ability test and can participate in the Heavenly Academy's annual interclass competition. I hope the devil class can obtain a good result in the competition. Yiqing Luo smiled in a neither servile nor overbearing manner as she bowed to Master of Justice. Thank you for your praise. Borrowing Master's auspicious words, devil class will definitely work hard in the interclass competition to win glory for the class and the academy. After a few exchanges of greetings, Master of Justice let Yiqing Luo and the rest go back to rest first. After all, the test in the heavenly pagoda would cause a strong impact on the student's soul and willpower. They needed to rest for a day or two before they could recover to normal. Yiqing Luo led the 9 of them, and after bowing to everyone she retreated. As if she didn't care about the sensation she had caused in everyone's hearts. On the high platform, Yun Duan stroked his white beard and pursed his lips meaningfully. Student Ye's innate talent, it's a pity to leave her in the devil class. Never thought she could really create a miracle. The elders at the side immediately nodded in agreement. Devil class being the first to pass the test was indeed inconceivable. The test in the heavenly pagoda was designed by the elders' division, the teachers' division, and the headmaster himself. They knew better than anyone how difficult it was. Principal, do you think student Yi should? Yun Duan looked at the principal, wanting to discuss with him. Only to see the dean staring at the direction where the devil class had disappeared in a daze. His usual dignified face faintly flashed a hint of ruthlessness. Ruthless? Yun Duan furrowed his eyebrows, wanting to take a closer look, but the dean had already glanced at him. Student Yi has already rejected my request. Cloud was startled. Refuse? To enter the class of gods? Could it be that the news of the 2 cold-faced instructors jointly allowing Yiqing Luo to enter the class of gods was actually true? It was not that the dean did not agree. Or was it Yiqing Luo who refused to enter the class of gods? It doesn't matter, no matter which class you are in, student Yi is still a student of the Heavenly Academy. The dean waved his hand and looked at Master Emo who was beside him. Chapter 1037. Dmo Xian, who was seated at the main seat, leaned back on the soft chair with an extremely lazy expression. After hearing the director's words, he shot a glance at the director with an elegant expression. Devil class's achievements are all due to the student's ability, it has nothing to do with me. Yes, yes, yes. The director agreed with a flattering smile, obviously treating Dmo Xian's words as an excuse. Devil classes students, just based on Yiqing Luo alone, could bring along 9 ways to pass the Heavenly Pagoda's ability assessment. The director would rather believe that all these were due to Dmo Xian's transformation of those wastes in the past few months. Dmo Xian was too lazy to explain. He lifted his eyelids lazily as his vision was fixed on the figure who had already disappeared from the heavenly square. His eyes were slightly deep. Senior Mo, let's take a look at the second class to successfully walk out of the heavenly pagoda. The director hadn't finished his words. Suddenly he felt a cold breeze brushing past his cheeks. His white robe fluttered in the wind. Like a deity, he flashed past the director's eyes. Senior Mo. The director hurriedly stood up and wanted to chase after him. But he saw that white figure, in a blink of an eye, had already disappeared in front of him. Senior Mo? The director was astonished, puzzled about Senior Mo's departure. But he saw many gazes because he had stood up, all looked over. He then put on a gentle smile and sat back down. His white brows creased slightly as his vision looked towards the empty seat. There was no Senior Mo's figure. Senior Mo What was the reason for him to leave in such a hurry? After coming out of the heavenly pagoda, the 10 of their souls had more or less suffered some impact. Especially the second round of the 3 corpses test, the illusion of greed, anger and obsession. It was the most impactful to the soul. After returning to Devil class, there was no extra energy to discuss with the other students about the things in the heavenly pagoda. One by one they dispersed and went back to rest. After Yiqing Luo showed the few students, she gave each of them a stabilizing pill and returned to the dormitory with Mo Yuing. In the dormitory there were only the 2 of them. It was extremely quiet. Yiqing Luo entered her own room and directly fell onto the bed. This fall, before she hit the bed, her petite body fell into a broad and warm embrace. A soothing sandalwood fragrance wafted into his nostrils. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes and attached her body and mind onto the man. Her tone was gentle. Why are you here? Wasn't he still watching the test of strength at the head seat of the heavenly plaza just now? If you're not here, what's the point of me staying? Dmo Xian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly. His long eyelashes drooped as he gazed at her delicate little face. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as her little face rubbed against his chest. Following that, she opened her eyes and stared deeply at Dmo Xian's face. Her slender little hand caressed his contours. I missed you. Miss him. Ever since she came out of the illusion, she had been thinking about him. Especially at that moment, her mind was filled with this man. The illusion told her. How important was this man to her? Her greed was only for the sake of being qualified to stand by his side. Her resentment was only because she wanted to possess everything he had. She wanted him to belong to her for all eternity. Her obsession was only to stay with him, to have a family that belonged to them, to have a child that belonged to them. Yiqing Luo slowly tiptoed as her arms encircled his neck, and her lips pressed against his lips. Chapter 1038. Dmo Xian squinted his eyes as he stared deeply at the young lady's flushed face. She rarely relied on him so actively. What had she met in the ability assessment? Dmo Xian's hand, which was around her slender waist, moved upwards and held onto the back of her head as he turned from guest to host, deepening the kiss. Usually when he kissed in such an overbearing manner, Yiqing Luo would more or less struggle. But, this time round, Yiqing Luo cooperated as her soft tongue probed into his mouth. Yiqing Luo's initiative made Dmo Xian lose his rationality. His eyes gradually deepened as a ball of passion flared up from the bottom of his eyes. He intensified the kiss. In the end, Yiqing Luo could only hang on Dmo Xian's body softly, leaving an ambiguous low moan and clear stream. Separated by a thin robe, Dmo Xian's large palm instinctively moved along the soft petite body. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo frantically stretched out her hand as she pressed on his large palm. This made her suddenly recall the things that Dmo Xian had done to her in the dreamland when she was infatuated with him. With his beloved in his arms, he lowered his eyes to take a look. The young lady's eyes were like silk and her face was like a peach blossom. With a moist luster, her red and swollen lips seemed to be emitting a silent seduction. As long as it was a man, upon seeing this amorous scene, how could he possibly stop? Dmo Xian was a normal man. Especially when Yiqing Luo took the initiative to kiss him and confessed without any concealment. At this moment, Dmo Xian had already descended into madness as he pressed Yiqing Luo onto the bed behind him. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo was in a daze from the kiss, but her consciousness was still clear. Her hands weakly pushed against Dmo Xian's chest. 3,000 strands of hair had already scattered under the man's slender fingers as it scattered onto the bed. He leaned forward as his elbows were propped on the side of her body. His deep and blurry peach blossom eyes seemed to be able to captivate her soul as he looked at her affectionately. The kiss landed on her lips once again. This kiss was overbearing and overbearing, as though he was going to swallow her whole into his stomach. Xian, Xian. Yiqing Luo's lashes were wet as her petite body instinctively twisted due to his teasing. Her little hand, which was pushing Dmo Xian's chest, turned into a tight grip on his clothes. Dmo Xian pecked at her swollen red lips that were stained with crystals. She moved slightly and her long legs brushed against his legs from time to time. She panted lightly, her warm breath splashing on his face. Dmo Xian's body tensed up, his breathing erratic and his eyes dark and gloomy. He stared at her bashfully. Her long hair was drenched in sweat and scattered over her shoulders. A few more strands stuck to her face. That soft and delicate body would rub against his from time to time. Dmo Xian only felt a scorching sensation surging towards his lower abdomen. Dmo Xian wasn't unfamiliar with this feeling. Every single time he kissed Yiqing Luo, he would have this feeling. Yiqing Luo apparently felt it too. She blushed and struggled to break free from his grip. Xian, you can't do it here. She said, Xian. She admitted that just one kiss from Dmo Xian was enough to make her feel uncomfortable all over. They loved each other. Naturally, he also wanted to have her. But, at this moment in a place like the academy, she didn't know how many people from the dark forces were around, nor how many of the director's spies were there. Yiqing Luo still had a sliver of rationality left, and when Dmo Xian's fingers undid her belt, she swiftly grabbed his arm. This man, why was his mind filled with such things? Chapter 1039. Dmo Xian's eyes were burning with desire as he stared at the blushing young lady below him. Lil Luo, you really don't mean what you say. He stretched out his slender fingers and caressed her lips. His slightly calloused fingertips caressed her lips, causing Yiqing Luo's petite body to tremble slightly. He leaned close to her ear as his thin lips brushed past her earlobe as he gave a low chuckle. If I really stop, can you bear to? Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned even redder as she shyly shifted her gaze away. I can bear to quickly get off. Really bear to? Dmo Xian squinted his long peach blossom eyes as that finger which was caressing her pink lips slowly moved downwards. I need to confirm if you're lying. His finger. His gaze swept across the softness of her chest, across her flat stomach and straight down. Yiqing Luo's trembling became more and more intense as she wanted to struggle and raise her fist to pound on his chest. When his fingertips touched something, the desire in his eyes grew even more intense. He half-propped himself up as he slowly retracted his hand as his eyes were filled with an evil charm. Still want to quibble? Yiqing Luo was embarrassed as she bit her lower lip tightly as her eyelashes were already wet. This man, must he make her so embarrassed that she couldn't see anyone before he was willing to stop? How could he touch that place of hers? Lil Luo, this is your punishment for quibbling. His elbow relaxed as his burning hot chest pressed against her petite body. Yiqing Luo panicked as her watery eyes stared at him pitifully. Xian, let go of me, can you let go of me first? The man's body became even more tensed. His body was pressed against hers. He leaned close to her ear as he laughed softly. Lil Luo, let me tell you, this is the consequence of a woman seducing a man. He leaned forward and was about to. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo suddenly arched her body as she took the initiative to kiss his lips. Following that, she exerted force and pressed Dmo Xian down. Dmo Xian, who was preparing to take action, had eyes filled with desire as he totally didn't notice. He was directly pressed under Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's long legs stretched out and pressed against his abdomen as she stretched out her hand to support his chest. Xian, you. I didn't expect Lil Luo to be so passionate. Dmo Xian narrowed his eyes but didn't forcefully push her down again. He spread his arms, his long and charming peach blossom eyes flowed with an intoxicating light. He stuck out his tongue seductively and licked his thin lips, as if he wanted more of her taste. Since that is the case, I will reluctantly allow Lil Luo to be on top. However, can Lil Luo really do it? Yiqing Luo stared at him. About the matters between the upper and lower levels, we can talk about it in the future. We can't talk about it in the academy. She couldn't stop this man from going crazy. He could only forcefully suppress him. Only then could he regain his rationality. You want me to stop? Dmo Xian raised his eyebrows. Due to his endurance, his forehead was dripping with perspiration, messing up his black hair. Some of that black hair fell on his face like a cloud of smoke. She sprinkled a handful of it on the bed, adding a suffocating charm to this man of peerless elegance. Yiqing Luo knew how hard he was enduring as she bent over and kissed his thin lips, echoing his thoughts. There are too many spies in the academy and those students will definitely return to the dormitory to rest after they pass the round. You don't want to be disturbed in the middle, right? Dmo Xian's handsome face twitched as his brows creased. We still have a very long time to be together, so there's no hurry, right? Yiqing Luo caressed his face as she persuaded him in a gentle voice. Dmo Xian remained silent for a moment as he fixed his gaze on her, trying to please him. Chapter 1040. Yiqing Luo instantly blushed. This man was really Xian. Yiqing Luo helplessly closed his hand which was clasping her lower jaw. Don't you feel that this ability test is a little strange? Dmo Xian had been watching from the side. He should have heard the master's description of the test in the heavenly pagoda. She could tell that there was something wrong with this ability test. Dmo Xian should have sensed it. Indeed, after mentioning the ability test, Dmo Xian's eyes, which were filled with anger, gradually turned dark and gloomy. He frowned slightly and slowly retracted his hand from Yiqing Luo's hand. With a flip, he flipped down from Yiqing Luo's body and laid sideways. Following that, his long arms stretched out and wrapped around Yiqing Luo's body, pulling her into his embrace tightly. A hand, coincidentally, landed somewhere in front of her chest. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled as she raised her hand to slap his unruly hand. The man intentionally squeezed his palm. Why? You want me to stop? Aren't you going to give me some benefits? Yiqing Luo's face flushed red. The hand which was holding onto his wrist slid down, but she didn't stop him or ask for any benefits. She only muttered softly, "Don't move." Dmo Xian's narrow long eyes dimmed slightly as his lips curled meaningfully. "Don't worry, I will only touch and not move." These words sounded a little wrong. Why did she feel that? Was it because of some color? Had she been led astray by Dmo Xian? Yiqing Luo shook her head, trying to get rid of the wild thoughts in her mind. She heard the man's low hoarse voice. You should have sensed it in the heavenly pagoda. This test is not the so-called ability test, but another kind of test. Yiqing Luo collected those messy thoughts in her eyes and nodded. Yes, it is a test of the student's soul. It involved the soul, and that was the King of Darkness from the Dark Forces. The director was working with the Dark Forces. Which meant to say this ability test was in fact to help the King of Darkness to select a pure profound cultivator's soul as a sacrifice. Or perhaps the interclass competition was suddenly brought forward by 5 months. It caused a huge sensation in Nirvana realm. This was also what the King of Darkness wanted. I don't understand, why did the Dark Forces suddenly need souls so urgently? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she leaned into Dmo Xian's arms, raising her head to look at him. Moreover, they urgently need pure and clean souls. Dmo Xian added. That was right. He desperately needed a pure and clean soul. Could it be that something happened to the King of Darkness? Right now, this was the only explanation. The King of Darkness had been chased out of the Nirvana realm hundreds of years ago. He had endured for hundreds of years. It was impossible for him not to be willing to wait for a few short years. Through the heavenly Dean, the King of Darkness must have gathered thousands of souls. He was not in a hurry to revive immediately, unless the King of Darkness was in trouble. That was why he continued to sense the pure soul of a profound practitioner, to replenish his dark energy, and to undo the seal on his body ahead of time. If that was the case, those students who had passed the 3 tests of the upper profound pagoda or the 3 corpses illusory realm test in the second test would be able to cleanse themselves of their greed, anger, and obsession. I'm afraid it's going to be dangerous. They would become the targets of the Dark Forces. Chapter 1041. His 5 slender fingers subconsciously clenched. It felt so good that he couldn't bear to part with it. Yiqing Luo felt as if she got an electric shock. She raised her fist and hammered him. We're talking about serious matters. Can you stop fooling around? Driving off at the slightest disagreement. She wasn't able to react in time. Dmo Xian's body leaned slightly as he leaned closer to her and immediately lowered his head as he planted a kiss on her lips. Aren't I talking about serious matters with you? Yiqing Luo patted the back of his hand. Take your hand away. Diamo Xian raised his brows, a mischievous glint flashed past his eyes. Immediately, his fingers became more and more wanton. Yiqing Luo couldn't struggle at all. She could only blush and hold his hand tightly, not letting him move. Diamo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles. He really loved her bashful look. This kind of expression that only fell for him. Yiqing Luo's face was flushed red and she was about to get angry. Diamo Xian then restrained himself and pretended to be serious as he continued. Once the news of the dark forces infiltrating Nirvana realm is spread to the upper realm will definitely send someone to carry out the second expulsion. Second expulsion? Yiqing Luo's thoughts were instantly diverted. She looked up and frowned doubtfully. Will the people from the upper realm know about this? Nirvana realm was also known as the mortal realm. As for the upper realm, it was a realm that spanned a distance of 108,000 miles. It was the upper realm that was far above the upper realm. How could the upper realm know about the news of the mortal realm? Every realm in the upper realm will send 1 to 10 peace messengers to hide their identity and live in the next realm. This is also a way to keep each other in check and maintain peace. Diamo Xian explained. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up when she heard that. That means there are people from the upper realm in our Nirvana realm? The peace messengers of Nirvana realm are from the earth realm. Diamo Xian's tone was indifferent. His tone and expression made it seem like the people from the earth realm were just trash to him. People from the earth realm? To Yiqing Luo this was an exciting thing. After all, if a person who was called trash in the earth domain came to the Nirvana realm, that person would be called a high-level profounder. It was precisely because the people of each plane were not on the same level in terms of ability, talent, and strength. That was why the ambassadors of peace were needed to keep each other in check. This was the only way to prevent people from other planes from going to a lower plane and stirring up trouble. If the people from the upper realm intervene, the dark forces without the King of Darkness will not be able to do anything. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment. Moreover, once the matter regarding the King of Darkness is known by the people from the upper realm, in order to prevent future troubles, the people from the upper realm will definitely think of a way to eliminate all future troubles. Diamo Xian nodded with a smile. Lil Luo, is indeed smart, just a few words and you can already deduce most of it. It was rare to be praised by Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo's face blushed slightly as she lowered her eyelids and snuggled into his arms. So, because of me, the news of the dark forces has already spread throughout the Nirvana realm. The King of Darkness wants to remove the seal as soon as possible so that he can take over the Nirvana realm as soon as possible. During the confrontation with the patriarch of the Yuchi family, she had thrown out the dark forces and had already infiltrated into the Nirvana realm. Furthermore, she had made use of the dark forces' forbidden arts to control quite a number of people. In the Nirvana realm, there were people who could be called out by their names. Chapter 1042. After that, under the deliberate embellishment of the 3,000 peach blossoms, numerous Nirvana realm's younger generation now all knew about the viciousness of the dark forces. They also knew about the battle between the dark forces and Nirvana realm. Which cultivator would allow their territories to be occupied by others? If they were willing to be occupied. Now Nirvana realm would not be divided into 4. Yiqing Luo had grasped these people's mentality, so she specially took the opportunity of that battle to spread the news. During the interclass competition you'd better be careful. The dark force's final target is you. Diamo Xian's hand finally stopped teasing her. If he continued to tease her, in the end the one who would feel uncomfortable would be himself. He gently caressed Yiqing Luo's hair as his voice was gentle. Lil Luo, leave the dark forces matters to me and the Imperial Palace to settle. You just need to protect yourself, understand? But the dark forces were not something that she could avoid even if she wanted to. Right from the start, the dark forces' target was her. Even if she didn't initiate contact with the dark forces, the dark forces would definitely revolve around her. I will be by your side. Diamo Xian's lips curled up as his fingertips gently rubbed her eyes. You should be tired after the Heavenly Pagoda assessment. Have a good rest. Yiqing Luo was just about to reply, but the drowsiness made it hard for her to resist. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she fell into a deep sleep. Diamo Xian gazed deeply at the sleeping person in his arms as his dense long lashes drooped slightly. He slowly retracted his hand, which was used as a pillow, as he quietly left the bed. His gaze congealed outside the window. Wind, what's the matter? Yes. If it wasn't for the fact that he sensed wind was outside the window, looking for him urgently. How could Diamo Xian possibly stop being intimate with Yiqing Luo because of the dark forces? Wind had always been sensible. If it wasn't an urgent matter, he would definitely not do so. As expected, Diamo Xian's words had just ended when a black shadow flashed past. A black-robed young man with a sword by his waist knelt in front of Diamo Xian. "Overlord, the Imperial Palace has an express secret letter to report." Diamo Xian nodded slightly. He glanced at the person who was sleeping soundly on the bed. His deep eyes darkened as he said indifferently, "Take good care of her." Wind cupped his fists. "Understood." By the time Yiqing Luo woke up, it was already the next morning. Outside the dormitory, there were several female students conversing loudly. Lu Xiaoyu's anger and Mo Ying's emotionless voice could be heard. "Trash class is trash, you don is trash, and you don't have the ability. A trashy class will always be a trashy class. You don't even have the ability to participate in the interclass competition." This voice was rather familiar. Immediately after, another voice could be heard. "Mo Ying, look at your cowardly look. I can easily push you down with one finger." Perhaps that person really went to push Mo Ying. Then Lu Xiaoyu's delicate voice rang out, "Let's see who dares to move." Just a few days ago he was still fawning over Qing Luo, and today he wanted to bully Qing Luo's classmate. "If you dare to make a move, I will go to the faculty council and complain." "Go ahead. The vice president is here. If you have the ability, go ahead." That female student snorted, full of disdain. Chapter 1043. Enough. Lu Shuiyu's voice was icy cold, making a ruckus in the dormitory. What a scandal. Those few female students hummed softly and kept their mouths shut. Yiqing Luo finally understood. These few people, weren't they those students who came to the dormitory during the holidays to please her? So quickly they were bought over by Lu Shuiyu again? Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. She wondered what was the meaning of these rich young ladies forming cliques all day long. As if they were able to hug someone's thigh, they would be able to bully others. Yiqing Luo only heard a few sentences and roughly guessed the situation outside. Probably because of the Heavenly Pagoda's ability assessment. As a high profound class student, Lu Shuiyu naturally felt embarrassed. These female students once again hugged Lu Shuiyu's thigh, naturally wanted to stand up for their eldest sister. So they came to Yiqing Luo's dormitory and found Mo Ying, who stayed in the same dormitory as Yiqing Luo, who was also a devil class student, to vent their anger. When Lu Xiaoyu saw this, she would definitely be infuriated and lend a helping hand. Which resulted in the current situation. In the dormitory hall, Lu Shuiyu sat elegantly on the wooden chair, her fingers hooked around the teacup as she took a sip. "Student Lu Xiaoyu, please remember that this is the dormitory, this is the academy, not a place for a spoiled child like you to throw a tantrum." Lu Xiaoyu's face flushed red as she pointed at Lu Shuiyu furiously. "That's right, so what if I'm spoilt by my parents? At least I live honestly, I know what friendship is and how to protect my friends." Speaking of this, Lu Xiaoyu's lips curled upwards, revealing a sneer of ridicule. "Right, we share the same surname Lu, but our statuses are different. You're the noble eldest Miss Lu, I'm just an ordinary well-off Lu family's youngest daughter, but at least I have my father, my mother dotes on me, loves you. You, other than that pitiful arrogance, what else do you have?" Lu Xiaoyu's words were powerful and resonant. The expression on her face was filled with righteousness. Lu Shuiyu's face turned green and white. Seeing the change in Lu Shuiyu's expression, the female students behind her immediately stepped forward and pushed Lu Xiaoyu. "How dare you insult the vice president? This young lady will teach you a lesson on behalf of the vice president." With that, she raised her hand and slapped Lu Xiaoyu's face. However, this slap did not have the time to land. However, a small pink figure rushed over. His small head happened to bump into the female student's abdomen. The female student felt an excruciating pain as if her internal organs had been shattered. She collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Mo Ying. The other four female students stared at Mo Ying in disbelief. This trash dared to use his head to talk back to them? A female student's expression instantly turned ferocious. She had long disliked Mo Ying's small stature. She looked small and delicate, like an 11 or 12-year-old little girl, but she purposely put on a stupid expression. She had seduced quite a few students in the academy and they were all interested in Mo Ying. This Mo Ying, who had always been bullied, never retaliated when hit, never retaliated when scolded. She dared to use her head to hurt their people. Mo Yuing, how dare you hit a student in front of the vice president? Chapter 1044. Four female students surrounded Mo Yuing with a sinister expression. Their faces were filled with disdain as though they were trying to strangle an ant. How dare you? I'm going to tell the director. Lu Xiaoyu frantically pulled Mo Yuing over and stood in front of her. She couldn't beat these few female students, but she absolutely could not let Mo Yuing get hurt. Mo Yuing was Yiqing Luo's classmate and had saved her earlier. She had to protect Mo Yuing. Beat the both of them together. A female student shouted and got the support of the other three female students. All of them started to attack Lu Xiaoyu's back mercilessly. Ah! A shrill scream was heard. Then a petite figure flew out into the sky. It crashed into Lu Xiaoyu's room door and gave out a heavy crash. Immediately it rolled onto the ground and spat out a big mouthful of blood. The direction it rolled towards was coincidentally Lu Xiaoyu's direction. This mouthful of blood coincidentally sprayed onto Lu Xiaoyu's skirt, splattering a patch of bright red. High profound class and intermediate profound class students can't afford to lose. A clear and melodious laughter was heard, like pearls falling onto a plate. Yiqing Luo's room door was opened and Yiqing Luo was dressed in a simple and loose green uniform as she leaned against the door lazily. Her slender fingers were playing with a strand of hair on her shoulder. Her stunning face was filled with ridicule. I'm so sorry, devil class is so lucky, just happened to have 10 people. And snatched your first place. Qing Luo. Lu Xiaoyu's face was filled with joy as she immediately pulled Mo Yuing and dashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. As long as Yiqing Luo appeared. Even if Lu Xiaoyu personally made a move, she would not be able to gain any advantage. After dashing to Yiqing Luo's side, Lu Xiaoyu then made a face at Lu Xiaoyu's direction. Lu Xiaoyu narrowed her cold eyes and glanced at the blood stains on her skirt. She raised her leg without hesitation and kicked the female student who was beside her leg away. She immediately stood up and looked at Yiqing Luo coldly. Can't afford to lose? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Could it be that the vice president can afford to lose? Yiqing Luo gave a light laugh as she crossed her arms over her chest and walked towards her languidly. I'm so sorry, devil class got the first place in the ability assessment, so it's like the boat rises with the tide and you're so complacent. Why, you're not convinced? Lu Xiaoyu's face darkened. He opened his mouth and was about to speak when he was interrupted by Yiqing Luo. Even if the devil class doesn't have any abilities, they are still number one in the ability assessment. Even if they don't have the right to participate in the interclass competition, they still have the right to be number one in the ability assessment and participate in the interclass competition. Why, you're not convinced? My devil class, just because we got the first place we use our connections to bully others, what about it? You're not convinced? Lu Xiaoyu was rendered speechless by the three consecutive, I'm not convinced. Following that, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as her eyes remained calm. If you're not convinced, then hold it in. Yiqing Luo. You're going too far. The female student who was standing beside Lu Xiaoyu stared at Yiqing Luo in fear. As soon as he said those words, he shrank back as if he had seen a ghost. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about that female student at all. Her charming eyes gazed at Lu Xiaoyu without blinking, waiting for her response. Lu Xiaoyu narrowed her cold eyes as her aloof expression turned frosty. After some time, she shifted her gaze away and left the dormitory without even turning back. In the dormitory hall, 3 female students laid on the ground and had been forgotten. Lu Xiaoyu didn't have the time to bother about them. Chapter 1045. Once Qing Luo appears, who dares to challenge her? Lu Xiaoyu smiled mischievously and stretched out her hand to hold Yiqing Luo's arm. Let's see how arrogant those people are going to be. Yiqing Luo poked her forehead. The most arrogant one is you. Lu Xiaoyu stuck out her tongue and rubbed her little face on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. I'm not arrogant, this is called bravery. In order to protect the person I want to protect, incomparably brave. Yiqing Luo was amused. Mo Yuing, who was standing behind them, stared at the 2 people who were laughing. His empty eyes blinked as if he didn't understand why they were smiling so happily. After being frozen for some time, when Yiqing Luo's smiling gaze met hers, Mo Yuing made a. It was an action that shocked everyone present. She held onto Yiqing Luo's arm expressionlessly, learning from Lu Xiaoyu's action, leaning her head on Yiqing Luo's body. His little face rubbed against Yiqing Luo's arm. After rubbing for some time, she took another look at the dazed Lu Xiaoyu and saw that her head was placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Mo Ying stretched out both her hands towards Yiqing Luo as she jumped around with all her might, trying to reach Yiqing Luo's shoulders. Yiqing Luo burst into laughter as she slowly squatted down and wrapped her arms around Mo Ying's petite body. Shadow, come, let sister hug you. Mo Ying's paralyzed face stared at Yiqing Luo for some time. His gaze immediately fell onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Stretching out her arm, she looped it around Yiqing Luo's neck and placed her face on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Yuang also knows how to act coquettishly. Lu Xiaoyu seemed to have discovered a new continent as her eyes were filled with amazement. I thought that Yuang would only be like a wooden person not easy to get along with. I didn't expect that. Yuang is so cute. Mo Ying ignored her screams, only quietly burying it on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. His face was still expressionless, but his pair of lifeless eyes was gradually covered with a faint expression. Yiqing Luo was really warm. It made her feel human warmth. Devil class. After passing the strength test yesterday, the souls of the students had been impacted. One by one they dispersed. As for Qiao Jin and Long Yunzhan, one went to the class committee room, and the other went to the spiritual Qi treasured land. Both of them were unable to calm down. He didn't show his face for an entire day. In the class committee room, Qiao Jin placed his feet on the wooden table and slumped into his chair. A pair of dark and gloomy eyes looked ahead without any focus. No one knew what he was thinking. Her long eyelashes couldn't hide the green at the corner of her eyes. It seemed like he hadn't slept all night. Indeed, he had not slept the entire night. As long as he closed his eyes, the image of a smiling face would appear in front of him. That smile was affectionate and sweet. Word by word she called him gently, "Ah Jin." It was Yan Xiaoyi. His mind was filled with Yan Xiaoyi's smiling face. The Yan Xiaoyi in the illusion, the Yan Xiaoyi who had deep feelings for him, it was like a scene that kept replaying in his mind. Ever since he returned to Devil class, Xiao Jin had been sitting here, recalling everything that had happened in the dreamland. In his illusion the first two were very normal. But in the infatuation of the third stage he saw Yan Xiaoyi. In the illusion they were husband and wife. In the illusion she gave him an enchanting smile, bewitching all living beings. In the illusion they almost became one. He almost got corroded by the illusion and wanted to stay in the illusion, to spend the rest of his life with Yan Xiaoyi. The illusion of infatuation, why was it Yan Xiaoyi? Could it be that he towards Yan Xiaoyi? Chapter 1046. Her voice stopped abruptly when she saw the people in the class committee room. She turned around and walked away as though she didn't see Qiao Jin. This voice startled Qiao Jin. He looked up only to see her turn and leave. His brows furrowed, his body instinctively moving forward to grab her wrist. Yan Xiaoyi, stop right there. Let go. Yan Xiaoyi pursed her red lips and flung his hand away. She didn't turn around to look at him. Qiao Jin held onto her shoulders forcefully and straightened her. Running when you see me? Are you so afraid of me? Yan Xiaoyi's face was sullen. She bit her red lips and was obviously angered by his words. I'm afraid of you? Qiao Jin, don't you have any shame? Let go of me. Qiao Jin's jade-like eyes narrowed. There was an unfathomable depth in his eyes. He stared at the imprisoned Yan Xiaoyi, looking at her pretty face which was flushed with a faint blush due to sullen anger. Something soft seemed to have hit a certain spot in his heart. The empty spot in his heart seemed to have been filled up by something. This was the feeling he wanted. In the illusion he was able to recognize the illusion, and it was also because this feeling was missing between him and Yan Xiaoyi. Qiao Jin, what do you want? You don't want to see me. So let's go our separate ways and not disturb each other. What else do you want? Yan Xiaoyi narrowed her eyes. She couldn't control the feelings that overflowed from the bottom of her heart when she touched him. She wanted to struggle, but Qiao Jin held her hands down after hearing her words. The door of the class committee room was slammed shut with a bang. Yan Xiaoyi's back was pressed against the wooden door. Qiao Jin held her arms high up and pressed her against the wall with one hand. Women were naturally weaker than men in terms of strength. Not to mention a man who was stronger than her. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't struggle at all. Instead, she was easily restrained by Qiao Jin. I don't want to see you? Qiao Jin narrowed his eyes and stared fixedly at the blushing young lady. He didn't know why, but a raging fire surged in his chest. He didn't want to hear any words like, I don't want to see him, or, go our separate ways from Yan Xiaoyi's mouth. That rage burned Qiao Jin's rationality. At this moment, Qiao Jin didn't even know what he was doing. He only followed his own heart, the other hand tightly wrapped around Yan Xiaoyi's waist. His slender fingers pinched her waist fiercely. Xiao Jin purposely moved closer to Yan Xiaoyi's ear when he said, "N." She gently exhaled a warm breath. Yan Xiaoyi's whole body trembled, her face blushing. She was embarrassed, but more so, she was angered by him. "And me, I also don't want to see." A kiss strong and domineering. It landed heavily on Yan Xiaoyi's red lips. Compared to the forceful kiss last time without any technique, this time Xiao Jin clearly grasped the trick. After kissing her red lips, he began to nibble on them, teasing her. He didn't give Yan Xiaoyi any chance to defend herself. A strong masculine scent filled her nostrils. Yan Xiaoyi didn't have the strength to resist at all. Her entire body went limp in Xiao Jin's arms. She could barely breathe. This bastard, what did he want? Why did he suddenly kiss her? Xiao Yi. He stopped kissing her lips. His silver-haired lips slowly moved to her ears. His soft call was low and sexy. Yan Xiaoyi's delicate body instinctively trembled. Because of his deliberate exhalation, tiny goosebumps appeared on his pink skin. Chapter 1047. Your body's reaction tells me that your heart and your mouth are not the same. Xiao Jin's head rested on her shoulder. As he breathed in Yan Xiaoyi's cold fragrance, the feeling of his heart being filled grew stronger. He couldn't help but pull the corners of his lips, revealing a smile that even he himself didn't notice. "You." Yan Xiaoyi's cheeks instantly turned red. Before he could react, she struggled to free her hands, raised her palms and threw a slap towards his face. Utterly shameless. As though he had guessed her next move. Coincidentally, Xiao Jin caught her slap and pressed it against the wooden door again. "This is the first day you met me, and now you know that I'm shameless?" Yan Xiaoyi was furious. Xiao Jin pursed his thin lips and stared at her slightly red cheeks. After a long while he retracted his hands. He only gently wrapped his arms around her waist, his head still buried in her neck. "Xiaoyi, don't say anything that will make me angry." Yan Xiaoyi's body stiffened. She couldn't get used to Xiao Jin's inexplicable gentleness and intimacy. It seemed, ever since Tao Tao had appeared, they could no longer get along like they used to. Especially after he forcefully kissed her and took away her first kiss, the atmosphere between them became increasingly strange. They shouldn't be like this. They were partners who cooperated with each other, brothers who supported each other. If they were tainted with feelings, between them it wouldn't be that pure anymore. Feelings? She really didn't want to be tainted, didn't want to touch them. Especially when the other party was Xiao Jin. The person he liked wasn't her. Yan Xiaoyi had her own pride and dignity. If Xiao Jin didn't love her, she wouldn't take the initiative to express her feelings. She wouldn't give Xiao Jin any chance to hurt her. Wouldn't wait for her to confess her true feelings, and then watch him be with another woman. And leave her alone to feel sad. Yan Xiaoyi's expression gradually turned cold. Her delicate face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. She looked at the man on top of her, her voice cold. "Xiao Jin, if you don't want me to make you angry, then let me go. I didn't come here to look for you." If Tong Ziqing hadn't told her that Long Yunzhan was waiting for her in the class committee room, saying that he had something to discuss with her regarding the ability test, it was impossible for her to come here. He did not expect to enter the class committee room. There was only Xiao Jin here, Long Yunzhan wasn't here at all. She realized that she had been fooled by Tong Ziqing. She wanted to leave, but Xiao Jin didn't let her. He was clearly the one who had been avoiding her. "You're not looking for me? Looking for the class leader?" Xiao Jin sneered, and the hand that was wrapped around her waist suddenly tightened. "So, seeing that the class monitor isn't here, you're disappointed?" He clearly knew that the relationship between Yan Xiaoyi and Long Yunzhan was that of companions and brothers. However, the words slipped out of his mouth on their own. He couldn't stop her. He could only use his jade-like eyes to stare deeply at her expression. He wanted to see through her eyes and see what she was thinking. As expected, Yan Xiaoyi's expression was sullen. The petite body nestled in his arms was also trembling with anger. "Xiao Jin, get lost," Yan Xiaoyi bellowed. How could he insult her like this? "It doesn't matter if you don't like her." Why did he use such words to belittle her feelings? In his eyes, were her feelings that cheap? As long as it was a man, she could accept it? He couldn't be clearer about the relationship between her and the class monitor, wasn't he? Yan Xiaoyi only felt that she was in an ice house, so cold that it was bone-chilling. It wasn't just the coldness of her body. Chapter 1048. After a long while, Yan Xiaoyi's long eyelashes fluttered. She looked up with a calm gaze and said emotionlessly, "Yes, I'm very disappointed that I didn't see the class monitor." After a pause, her lips curled and a self-mocking sneer flashed across her eyes. "Especially, seeing you here, I'm even more disappointed." That feeling of coldness was accompanied by pain. Bone-chilling cold and bone-chilling pain. Her remaining pride was trampled on by him. "Yan Xiaoyi, this mouth of yours really makes people want to ruthlessly seal it." Qiao Jin's eyes darkened and his dark eyes were filled with anger. His body pressed down and his long slender legs forced their way between her legs. His fingers clasped the back of her head, and he fiercely kissed her mouth, which always said things that made him uncontrollably furious. This woman was more adorable when she didn't speak. Yan Xiaoyi moaned softly and raised her hand to hit his chest, struggling to not let him invade. Perhaps men were naturally talented in this aspect. Qiao Jin, who only had 2 kissing experiences, had already learned the essence. He easily turned Yan Xiaoyi's resistance into nothingness. She couldn't move at all. She forced herself to accept Qiao Jin's domineering kiss. This kiss didn't make Yan Xiaoyi feel the slightest bit of sweetness. Instead, there was intense pain and bitterness. He didn't love her. But he did such things to her several times. He even slandered her relationship with Long Yunzhan. Yan Xiaoyi remembered it clearly. The last time when Qiao Jin kissed her forcefully, he clearly didn't have any technique and only knew how to bite her. This time she felt weak all over and couldn't handle it. Although she didn't understand, she understood common sense. This kind of technique wasn't something that could be mastered after just 1 or 2 times. Was it Tao Tao? This name made Yan Xiaoyi feel even more bitter. Women always liked to let their imaginations run wild. At this moment, it was inevitable that she would make wild guesses because of Qiao Jin's change. Was it because of the critical moment of the interclass competition and Qiao Jin couldn't appear to see Tao Tao, so he used her as a substitute? Would he kiss Tao Tao after he got better at it? Her eyes suddenly widened. Unconcealable pain flashed across her eyes. Qiao Jin captured this trace of pain. His kiss paused for a moment. Following that, Qiao Jin's kiss became even more ferocious. Did she hate his kisses that much? Did she really not want him to touch her? He wanted her to remember his kiss and his taste. He wanted her to become just like him, only thinking about him in her head. This thought caused a certain impulse in Qiao Jin's heart to become even more intense. Yan Xiaoyi was kissed until she could only lean on him and barely stand up straight. He wanted to struggle, but it felt like he was scratching an itch. On the contrary, it seemed like he was trying to resist, but he was trying to entice Qiao Jin. She turned her head to avoid his kiss. In the next instant, her body felt light as Qiao Jin carried her by the waist. Ah! She was so frightened that she let out a soft cry. Only the sound of things falling to the ground could be heard. Then her body was placed on the table. Yan Xiaoyi had yet to react and was about to get up. Qiao Jin's boiling hot body had already pressed down. Qiao Jin. Yan Xiaoyi realized something and her expression changed instantly. "What are you doing?" Qiao Jin gave a low laugh and kissed her neck. "Can't you tell what I want to do?" As soon as his kiss touched her skin, she felt a chill run down her spine. Yan Xiaoyi trembled all over. Her eyes were already wet. Those were tears from being angered by Qiao Jin. And tears from being seduced by Qiao Jin. Chapter 1049. Do you know what you're doing? Yan Xiaoyi panted lightly, trying her best to restrain her cloud of emotions. Qiao Jin lifted his head, his elbow propped on the side of her body. "I don't know." Yan Xiaoyi was speechless and turned her face away. She really had nothing to say to this man. What did he want to do? Did he feel a sense of achievement by teasing her? This level can make you absent-minded? Qiao Jin's voice suddenly came close to her ear. That voice, with a hint of desire, under deliberate suppression, revealed a husky magnetism. "Looks like I have to work harder." As soon as he finished speaking, his warm thin lips sucked on her earlobe. "And?" Yan Xiaoyi moaned, her consciousness about to disperse. Qiao Jin's eyes leapt up with a hint of a smile. He liked to see Yan Xiaoyi reveal such an expression because of him. He liked to hear Yan Xiaoyi's coquettish voice. He wanted Yan Xiaoyi's mind to be filled with only him. His actions became more and more fanatical. Her meaning became more and more abstracted. Her entire body had already turned into a puddle of water, bearing all of Qiao Jin's actions. Yan Xiaoyi only came back to her senses when she felt a chill in front of her. Her top had been unbuttoned at some point. Qiao Jin's kiss was about to fall, she raised her hand and slapped Xiao Jin's face. Bah! A deafening sound, extremely loud and clear. It also smashed the ambiguous feelings between the two of them. Xiao Jin's dark jade eyes, filled with desire, gradually focused and fixed on Yan Xiaoyi's face. His pupils contracted, his face somewhat pale. What was he doing? Why did he feel like he couldn't control himself when he saw Yan Xiaoyi? At that time he saw Yan Xiaoyi walk into the class committee room. He was ecstatic. He saw her turn and leave. He knew that he couldn't let her leave just like that. So he stopped Yan Xiaoyi. He didn't want Yan Xiaoyi to leave. He used such a method to force her to stay. To Yan Xiaoyi, so sorry? Xiao Jin turned over and got up from her. His entire body was tense, unable to recover from his loss of control. At this moment, if Xiao Jin still didn't understand his feelings, so he would be even more of a pig than a pig. He liked Yan Xiaoyi. He didn't know when it started, but he had fallen in love with this girl. She was always bickering with him, never obeying his orders, and yet he couldn't take his eyes off her. However, he had done such a thing to her. It was the first time they hugged secretly. The second forceful kiss. The third time, he pinned her under his body. She must hate him to the core. No, he could not let her hate him. Xiao Jin clenched his fists and prepared himself mentally. He turned around and lowered his head to apologize to Yan Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi, I'm sorry, you can hit me or scold me, don't hate me. Before he could say the word, another resounding slap landed on his face. Yan Xiaoyi clutches her clothes tightly and slides down from the table. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin pursed his lips, not dodging. He could only endure her anger. He lifted his eyes and looked at Yan Xiaoyi. As long as she calmed down, she could hit him however she wanted. However, when he saw Yan Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin's gaze couldn't be shifted away. Yan Xiaoyi was so embarrassed that her face was red to the ears. Her lively beautiful eyes, under Yun Liqing, added a bit of charm. To him that was a fatal poison. He opened his mouth, wanting to express his feelings. Chapter 1050. Xiao Jin was slightly taken aback as he saw Yan Xiaoyi gathering her clothes and getting up to escape. In his panic, he immediately grabbed her arm. Xiaoyi, listen to me. His voice suddenly paused, because he saw Yan Xiaoyi's reddened eyes. She stared at him with her beautiful watery eyes that were tinged with redness. That delicate little face was expressionless. Xiao Jin's heart felt as if it was being pierced by needles, a tearing pain. Yan Xiaoyi, such a strong-willed woman. Such a strong woman. Even in the Yan family, Yan Zhenfei deliberately ostracized and framed him. She was a truly talented young lady of the Yan family, but she had been reduced to a useless servant girl who was despised by the entire Yan family. She was able to grit her teeth and endure it. With her own ability, she had secretly made plans for her future. After entering the devil class, her innate talent caught the eye of Long Yunzhan. After formal training, she successfully joined the class committee. No matter how hard it was or how tired she was, she never complained about it. She was so strong that she didn't seem like a woman. But now she cried. Because of him, such a strong woman had cried. Looking at her reddened eyes, the words that Xiao Jin was about to say got stuck in his throat and he couldn't spit them out. His heart was filled with grief. His heart ached to the extreme. His grip on Yan Xiaoyi's hand gradually loosened. Yan Xiaoyi retracted her gaze, not wanting to look at him again. His eyes were filled with so much pain and so much passion. She almost had the illusion that he cared about her and valued her. He couldn't look anymore. If she fell into Xiao Jin's heart again, sooner or later she would not be herself. When the large palm on her wrist loosened, Yan Xiaoyi tightened her clothes and fled the class committee room. He did not give Xiao Jin the slightest chance to make him stay. The interclass competition was about to begin in half a month. Yiqing Luo kept all her thoughts and concentrated on giving these mercenaries the fastest and shortest explosive training. The training methods that the bunch of old fogies in the Hidden World Yi family trained the Death Warriors, were all used on the students of the Devil class. Each method was crueler than the previous. With Dmo Xian's help, the effect was extremely obvious. The students also knew the importance of this competition, and all of them trained very hard. Their fighting spirit was high and no one complained of tiredness. There were only 7 days left before the competition. Yiqing Luo gathered all the students and divided them into groups for confrontation. Last night, she told Dmo Xian and another god thief, as they snuck into the Xuanhuan family's residence, opened their little treasury and directly stole 10 pieces of essence and above weapons. Among them were 2 supreme being grade weapons. Although it was a pure-grade weapon, it was not the best. But, to be used as weapons for the students of Devil class, it was more than enough. Yiqing Luo was planning to wait till she met suitable ones in the future to forge a supreme-grade weapon for each of them. When the 10 weapons were placed on a makeshift platform in the training ground, more than 60 students stared at them with their eyes wide open. Next, I will divide you into 10 teams. You can choose members from other teams and compete against each other. Who will emerge victorious? The eyes of over 60 students lit up. It was obvious that they were extremely interested in these weapons. Originally he thought that Yiqing Luo would say, whoever obtained victory would be able to obtain these weapons. Chapter 1051. The second round of competition. Yiqing Luo naturally let the 10 of them challenge Long Yunzhan, Yan Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin and Mo Yuing. As for Baiming Lulu, Yiqing Luo gave her several prescriptions, asking her to make the best use of her time to refine pills. As for the main output, these students were more than enough. With the main output they still needed support and treatment. Baiming Lulu just happened to provide these 2 points. Moreover, as compared to training and fighting, Baiming Lulu apparently liked to refine pills more. After challenging the 4 members of the class committee, it was time to challenge DMO Xian. As long as they were able to last more than 10 rounds in DMO Xian's hands, they would obtain the rights to choose their weapons. When these students heard that, although they felt that this kind of round after round of competition was indeed too much for them, but they had to admit, it had aroused their fighting spirit. Even if there was no weapon as a reward, they also wanted to try their best to challenge the class committee, to challenge Supreme Mo. Looking at the students' fighting spirit, Yiqing Luo gave a satisfied smile. This battle is our battle to turn the tables. Let the other classes and even the other academies see clearly that we, Devil class, are not a waste class. Your current hard work will make your future filled with surprises. If you want to wash away the shame of being waste, then use your sweat to wipe away this shame. Remember this battle is not for me, not for Devil class, but for yourselves. For your own dignity, for your own future. I hope, in future no matter where you go, there will be people using an envious and worshipping tone to say to you, wow, you are Devil class's students. Devil class will become the synonym of your glory. Yiqing Luo's sonorous voice paused as her gaze swept past them. Do you have confidence? Yes. After 5 days of sleepless resistance. Finally, there were 2 students who fought their way out of the tight encirclement, obtaining 2 weapons. One was Bei Ming Lianqing, the other was Tong Ziqing. Long Yunzhan and the others were all exhausted. Yan Xiaoyi and Mo Yuing were all covered with big and small injuries. Xiao Jin also couldn't avoid some external injuries. But the 4 of them had a relaxed and satisfied smile on their faces. Even Long Yunzhan, when he saw the students' huge improvement, his brows revealed a smile. However, what puzzled everyone was, Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin did not speak during these few days of training. They didn't say a word to each other. After accepting the challenge, he led his team to fight against Xiao Jin's team. Yan Xiaoyi did not hold back at all. On the contrary, it was Xiao Jin. When facing Mo Yaing and Long Yunzhan's team, his attacks were ruthless and every move was fatal. But when it came to Yan Xiaoyi, he was so terrified that he retreated step by step. Other than passively receiving Yan Xiaoyi's attacks, he had no intention of retaliating. After a few times, Yan Xiaoyi directly refused to compete with Xiao Jin. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest as she squinted her eyes and stared at the strange atmosphere between the both of them. She nudged Dmo Xian. What conflict are the both of them having this time? Dmo Xian's shimmering peach blossom eyes glanced over as he shook his head. Apart from her, no one else mattered. Naturally, he would not bother to pay attention to it. On the other hand, Tong Ziqing, who was resting on the ground, put down the pure-grade whip in her hand and mumbled, maybe I helped the wrong person. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and squatted down to gossip. Tell me about it. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.